What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Sam Richards here, amateur classic physique competitor, and today we are running through everything to do with rest and recovery. We're taking it right back to basics. This is going to be a full rest and recovery 101. How, when and why should you rest? And how to basically use rest days, active rest, basically time recovering, tools to recover in order to accelerate your progress by actually doing less. So let's get into it. Let's talk a bit about why you need to rest and recover. A lot of people believe that the time that you build muscle is actually in the gym, underneath a barbell, pressing heavy weight. That is not the case at all. What you're doing there is you are providing a training stimulus. You are breaking down the muscle. You are causing damage to your body. What that then does is it teaches the body to basically adapt and be able to handle that load the next time you go back. So it will slowly over time adapt to the stress that you're putting on it. This means that you need to allow it the time to adapt. And this is the time where you're not in the gym, where it's enabled to rest, recover, rebuild, and basically create new tissue in response to the stimulus you've just given it in the gym. Rest and recovery is good not just for your muscles, but also for your joints, your tendons, your mentality, and your central nervous system. A lack of rest and recovery can show through quite clearly in a physique. You can see somebody who looks burnt out, whether that's physically or mentally. A lot of the time people will look flat, depleted, or just, you can visibly see the stress that's on their body. It's not pretty, and a lot of people push through it thinking that it's just DOMs, whereas they could actually benefit from stepping away, allowing their body to recover, and generally speaking, that's why after a deload, a lot of people look better than before. Now we're going to get into stuff like deloads and all these different types of rest and recovery, but let's just go over what the different types are. The first is rest days. This is just generally a day off the gym. You are staying at home, you're relaxing, maybe you're still getting your steps in, to keep your cardiovascular health ticking over, but generally speaking otherwise, it's a time to relax and give your body a full break. The second type of rest it's called active rest. Active rest is where you may partake in another active hobby, or you may go to the gym and just do cardio, or work a muscle group that you don't work usually, such as abs or calves maybe. It's a time to basically do a different form of training or put your body under a different type of stimulus, but nothing anywhere near this kind of stress as a bodybuilding, powerlifting, whatever it might be. Nothing like that kind of routine. You're still allowing your body to rest and recover in the ways that it needs to, but you're just staying active. Maybe it might be running, it might be martial arts, whatever it may be. The third type is backing off or deloads. Now this is, as I alluded to before, a period of time basically whereby you take an extended period off from the gym. There's not a single day like a rest day. It is an extended period of time, whether that's 3, 5, 7, 14 days. This is generally implemented when you are starting to burn out, or you're seeing the initial signs of burnout, whether that's mental, physical, whatever it might be. And there is another form of this, which is the backing off approach, which is basically a deload, but you're still going into the gym, doing some maybe lightweight volume work or doing active rest during that time. But personally, I figure if you're going to allow your body to rest, do it properly. The final element of this would be sleep for me. This is just such a major part of it. And it's actually the reason why I ended up cutting my prep short. You can see the video, I'll link it above if you haven't already watched that. It is a long one though. And sleep is basically a time whereby your body repairs itself, it processes the day, whether that's physical stress, mental stuff. A large part of the sleep cycle is where you're physically recovering. Your body's repairing itself as you sleep and rest. We all know that sleep is a vital part of feeling good and being physically fit and mentally fit. Now, the next part of the video I'm going to do is sort of quick fire guides to each of these elements, and we're going to kick it off with rest days. So how many rest days should you be taking in your training split? Well, a lot of this will depend on how advanced you are, but also on your genetics, your ability to recover, and your proneness to injury. Greg Doucette actually made a good video about, how you know if you've got good genetics, which covered a few of these bits, which people often overlook. There is a genetic propensity here to become injured, and it'll all depend on stuff like strengths of joints and your musculoskeletal system, lots of factors which I won't pretend to understand. But as a general rule, and if you follow what most pro bodybuilders, so take James Hollingshead for example, His approach is one that I pretty much buy into and most of the bodybuilding community does. The maximum that you will want to be doing in terms of active days in the gym will be 2 or 3 for every 1 day that you take as a rest day. So the way that I like to look at it is that in the off season, I'll do 2 days on and 1 day off at a maximum. So it might be the case that I'm doing push, pull, rest, legs, rest, push, pull. Whatever your schedule may be, or even a bro split, you know, chest, shoulders, rest, back, legs, rest, you know, that won't be optimal, of course, but it gives you an idea of what that schedule might look like. And then during a prep or a diet, when I'm shredding down, output starts to take priority. Now, of course, along with that, you can do things like compensate with supplementation and other things to make sure that everything is 100% so that the increased amount of output doesn't do any damage to your body. But generally speaking, you might be pushing this further towards 3 days on, 1 day off at maximum. But I wouldn't recommend doing this in multiple training blocks. So I wouldn't recommend doing 3 days on, 1 day off, 3 days on, 1 day off. I would probably recommend taking this to a maximum of 3 on, 1 off, 2 on, 1 off. That's the most that I would want to do. At minimum, you want 2 rest days within your week. But I personally really like the 2 on, 1 off approach. Now let's launch into active rest. So should you be doing active rest? In my opinion, yes, if you've got a hobby, for example, an active hobby, it might be martial arts, as I alluded to, or football, whatever it might be. And yes, for you Americans out there, I'm referring to soccer, not your pathetic attempt to claim the name football. That is ours through and through. Active rest, yes, I believe that it's good, as I say, if you have a hobby. If not, sometimes it can be good. Say, for example, if you're in a diet, you may want to utilize your rest days as a day to do cardio where you don't have other stress going on your body. Because, for example, if you're training and then doing cardio, you're not going to be in the freshest of states. And also, if you do a leg day, for example, you're not going to be in an optimal position to do half an hour to 45 minutes on a treadmill or a Stairmaster. So rest days can absolutely be used for cardio. That's what I did during my prep, and it was actually absolutely fine for me. I quite enjoyed it, the routine of getting up early and still going to the gym. If it's the off season, as I'm starting to push into now, you may maintain some of that cardio for pure health reasons. You know, less cardio, keep your cardiovascular system running healthily. But I wouldn't really stress it. If you wake up, you don't really fancy going to the gym on your rest day, it's no big deal. Taking a whole day off is going to benefit you equally, but just through different means. What I'll probably do is maybe one of my 2 or 3 rest days I'll use for fasted cardio. The other cardio session I may tag on to the end of a session, because I actually find that when I've still got that remnants of pre-workout in my system, I perform better on the treadmill. And then otherwise on my rest days, I'll perform posing practice, which is actually really good. There's a lot of calorie expenditure you can do through posing properly and spending time really trying to get into poses, hold them, work on a routine. And the artistic side of bodybuilding is something that I really want to embrace in my off season when I'm a bit more mentally clear to do so. Backing off and deloads. When should you be taking time off the gym properly? Typically, you'll feel the need for a deload or to back off after maybe a few months of training. After a decent period of time on a training program. You'll notice signs like progress in the gym stalling. That may be strength, that may be the amount of time that you can go for in the gym, your endurance. It may be that your scale weight won't budge no matter how much food you're pumping in. Maybe you're losing weight and you can't quite explain why because your calories are high. Or maybe you just feel a general sense of fatigue, you know, some chronic fatigue maybe pushing into your personal life a bit. These are times where you absolutely must take time off, back off at the very least, but I always recommend a full deload, which is just a period of time off. You can assess how bad you feel. If you just feel like, I just need a few days, then I'll be good, absolutely program 3 in, see how you feel at the end of 3, then push it to 5 if you need it. During this time, you should absolutely be eating rest day calories if they are lower in the way that you program your nutrition, just to make sure that your scale weight's not going to pump up and you're not going to gain loads of body fat over this period of time where expenditure's down. Now, deloads do also have another purpose. That's to prepare your body for stress. So, you know, even say if you haven't taken your body to the point of utter fatigue, say if you're 50% there, and then you're about to launch into maybe a 3-4 month contest prep or a 3-4 month off-season cycle. One of the best things that you can do is to take time off before that to make sure your body's back down to a base level, 0% fatigue, you're fully rested and recovered, so that nothing interrupts that process. Because during a prep, if you need to deload, although it won't be detrimental, it will be an inconvenience, and you want everything to be as predictable as possible during that process. Trust me. And then in an off season, of course, you're going to want to maximize the time growing, and you're not really going to do that on a deload, because although, as I say, that's the time where you grow muscle when you're not in the gym, that's a bit more relevant for rest days where you provided it with a stimulus. When you stop providing it with stimuluses altogether, the best that's going to happen is that the muscle you have there will repair and it'll be primed in order for you to then go and add the tissue. Now we're getting towards the end here, and we're going to move on to sleep, the final point. Now, sleep is incredibly important. It's also majorly overlooked, as I said. At a minimum, you want to be getting 6 hours, ideally up to the 8-hour threshold. Any less than that, and your body isn't allowed enough time to rest, recover, and for you to properly complete enough sleep cycles to feel primed for the next day. Anything more than that, and you get into that oversleeping territory. You know, when you wake up feeling groggy, you're like, I got 12 hours, why do I feel this way? And I can't really explain it. Maybe it's because it means that you typically wake up at a worse time to wake up. I'm not sure, but either way, all I know is that it ain't good for you and you don't feel good. So typically, I like to stay around the sort of 7 to 8 hours threshold. Anything more than that, my day's a bit fucked. Anything less than that, my day's a bit fucked. Now, I've almost come to an end, but before we go into my tools and things that you can utilize to aid your sleep and recovery and rest, I want to get into rest at the gym. Now, this is something that I see a lot of problems with, especially training at a commercial gym. It is my downfall where I live. Unfortunately, we are just too far away from Kings to make it the daily, but a lot of people in there I see, and they'll go with the old 80s classic golden era version of never put a weight down, right? Everything is all about volume. This is, again, people focusing on one part of progressive overload. There's strength, there's volume, intensity, all these kind of factors which feed into it. And people often over-focus on any one element, whether that's people who believe that lifting heavy with small reps is the way to gain hard, dense muscle, whether it's people who believe that volume training is the true bodybuilding training and the best way to elicit hypertrophy. Unfortunately, the answer is somewhere in the middle, and all of these factors need to be present to build a complete physique and build muscle effectively. You actually need a certain amount of time between sets to allow your CNS, central nervous system, to recover between those sets. You'll feel it if you leave 5 minutes between bench press sets. You'll almost definitely get more reps out than if you were to leave 2. And this is a factor that you need to consider: the type of movement that you're performing, the amount of stress that's going to put your body under, and whether you're going for a higher weight the next set, in which case you're going to want to give a bit more time for yourself to recover and be in the optimal position. Remember, the goal here is for intensity, not expenditure. We're not there to burn calories. If we were, you'd be stood on a treadmill or a Stairmaster. Time under the weights is to break down the muscle and put stress on that in the best, most optimal fashion. Now, some would say that consistently breaking it down is the way forward, but I would not say so at all. I think that allowing your body that slight bit of extra time to rest and recover is majorly compensated for in the added stress you put on it in the set itself. Use this time, if it's a bit alien to you, to maybe pace, get some steps in, maybe stretch the body part that you're training. This always helps me, especially with chest and arms as well. The pump tends to get a bit debilitating towards the end of the set, so I'll spend maybe 2 to 5 minutes stretching it out before I feel really ready and primed, at least as well as I can be towards the end of a workout. As a general rule, and the best way to go about this, try and stick to a minimum of 2 minutes between each set. If you're switching over to a new exercise, maybe allow a little bit more. You might naturally anyway to set up the equipment. But this gives you a minimum threshold where you should have enough time to recover to at least be able to perform the set well. Maybe not optimally, maybe you need to stretch some rest periods up to 4 or 5 minutes. It may only be a little bit of difference. You have to decide for yourself and feel it out and see whether there's any difference in your performance when you allow that time versus when maybe you stick closer to the 2-minute mark. My general rule is rest till you're ready. This is something that people aren't comfortable with, the ethereal concepts, the less set in stone, here's a number, here's a figure, here's a quantitative amount that you need to take. Why not the qualitative? Why not focus on the individual, because bodybuilding is the most individual sport in the world, in my opinion. This is something that I want to touch on as well, about the amount that you need to actually learn and research about your own body. But you need to figure out what works for you. So intuitively resting, just waiting until you feel ready to attack that set. That may be a mental trigger. You're like, right, I'm ready to go. It may be a physical one where you're like, okay, I feel good for this now. You know, it's going to depend on so many factors. Your best bet is to listen to your body. Finally, let's get into my tools for rest and recovery. What can you use to make the process more effective and more efficient? My first two sort of play into each other. Number one is to have proper downtime. You know, people schedule their days out so much, especially on stuff like prep. You have to always be busy, but it's really important to allow your mind and body time to just sit down, rest, and just relax. This often is a time where stuff like injury and fatigue catches up to you and you start to feel it. So it's not comfortable for a lot of people, but the fact of the matter is that fatigue and injury is going to be present no matter what. The difference is you're able to feel it and get ahead of it and predict it. The time that you allow yourself to just switch off throughout the day is incredibly important and should be scheduled. I personally kick back at about, don't know, maybe 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, after I've cooked dinner for myself and my partner, watch some shit TV, have a smoke and chill out. That is my evening in a nutshell every day. You should also limit your time using technology. This is one that I'm terrible with. It's unfortunately a fact that the first thing we tend to do in the morning is check our phones. The last thing we tend to look at night is our phones. This is something which I've tried to limit, and you know, it's difficult. I'm in the habit of YouTube is in the background of everything I do, you know, Spotify, podcasts, all that kind of stuff. I love it because it's a chance to advance myself. However, there is time that you need to just switch off, put your phone on, do not disturb, and that's why the sleep reminder or the actual sleep schedule app in the iPhone that's built in is brilliant to use. It just basically mutes everything beyond a certain time. You won't get any notifications till the morning, and you can even limit your access to certain apps. So it's really useful to use if you have to force it, and it does sort of make you think twice if you're going to push yourself onto Instagram late at night when you're not meant to be. Blue light, all those kind of things, they're all going to affect your ability to sleep or recover. Now, these are two things which I actually utilized in my prep. The third point and the third tool is Epsom salts. Epsom salt baths are great for relaxing your body, also for allowing your muscles to relax and recover. These also, however, have another effect of dehydration. So you need to bear that in mind and not allow it to take your dehydration to a point where it's affecting your recovery, but utilize it in enough fashion that it's going to help your body rest. I tended to use this after, say, a leg day, because in a bath, as a bigger guy, I'm not big, but I'm bigger, you know, only my lower body really gets in there anyway, so it's going to benefit me most then. So a nice Epsom salt bath after a leg day or a lot of cardio is a great way to go. And the fourth point is a massage gun. I got one on Amazon. It was about £30, has a few settings. It's good enough for the job, and it really did make a difference, honestly. Half an hour just using that, even on a low setting, just watching TV. Me and my partner both used it, and it is incredible. If you can't afford a regular weekly massage, this is the way to go. But I would still recommend a proper trip to a sports massage parlor at least once a month, just to give your body that proper reset, and you have never felt anything like the feeling afterwards, especially if you get some acupuncture on top. God, that is blissful. So the fifth tool, let's talk about sleep. How can you improve your sleep? There are a few ways you can do this. First of all, get yourself a good bed. I don't know why people don't think about this. A good quality bed is just going to improve your night's sleep like nobody else, honestly. Even a mattress topper if you can't afford a brand new bed. Good pillows, good bedding, all that stuff just makes the process more enjoyable, and it'll make it harder to leave it in the morning, so do be aware. But otherwise, sleep supplements can be effective. I personally used Supplement Needs Sleep Stack. This is Dean St. Martin's supplement company, and his products are all very scientifically researched and effective. I will say it worked for me. It works for me now. It does prevent me waking up, which is still sometimes an issue around 3, 4 a.m. But during the sort of dog ends of prep, when I was really starting to feel it, when it was all coming to a head, I must admit it wasn't being very effective at all. Like, I'd wake up after half an hour. But that was a very unique set of circumstances when my body was under the most stress it's ever felt before. And I had other issues as well, which were playing into it mentally. So a good sleep supplement can help. I hear Fade Out works, Calm works, that's by Redcorn One and then by Revive. So there are loads of good products out there. Just look at the reviews and figure out which ingredients you want based on what kind of effect you're looking to elicit, whether it's a relaxation calming effect or whether it's a lights out effect. And finally, we can't talk about sleep supplements and helping you drift off and recover without talking about cannabis. If you've seen my video on cannabis and bodybuilding, you will know exactly why this is potentially an amazing thing to utilize. Now, I'm by no means recommending that you do anything illegal. In a lot of territories it is legal, so, fine line. But THC, CBD, whatever it might be that is legal within your country is incredibly effective. It just enables your mind to literally shift. You will not want to think about all the serious shit. If you do, it will generally be in more of a creative, proactive manner. The stress is reduced, sleep quality improved, your ability to get to sleep improved. It generally can be a wonder supplement, and there's a reason why people say the pros outweigh the cons, but it doesn't agree with everyone. So, as with everything, even if it is legal, consult your medical professional, make sure that it's right for you. That is a general overview of my approach to rest and recovery and how I would structure my rest and recovery and all those elements which feed into it. There's of course way more as you get more advanced and look to refine the minute details, but this should give you a good jumping off point to launch into optimizing your rest periods. Do you want to see a day in the life of me on a rest day, how I structure my calories, how I structure my day, active rest, all that kind of stuff? If so, drop me a comment below, let me know what else you want to see as we return to YouTube finally. Thanks very much guys, and I'll see you in the next one.